someone comes in late, they'll just miss a little bit of the introduction. No harm, no foul. Okay, we are recording this. It's March 24th, and I want to thank the people at CloudSlam for inviting me to present to you folks. My name is Jim Bond. I'm Director of Product Marketing here at Virtual Instruments. If you haven't heard of Virtual Instruments, that's all right. We're a small company based in Scotts Valley, California. That's just about 20 minutes from Silicon Valley towards Santa Cruz. And we are a spin-off from Finisar about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, the optical company. And what we do is we build performance optimization solutions for large global enterprises. So folks like Unilever and B of A and Raymond James and many others use our performance solutions. Now this solution, this presentation, will take about 35 minutes. Feel free to contact me directly afterwards with any suggestions or questions. I'm glad to hear from everyone. I'm going to go ahead and you should be able to see an agenda now. So here's what we're going to talk about for the next 35 minutes. We'll start out with a brief recap of the challenge that I'm going to address. Now, it's no secret that cloud computing is enabled by advances in virtualization, and with all the benefits of virtualization come some challenges, and I won't spend too much time on these because, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably already bumped into some of the things I'm going to talk about. And there are lots of tools to help find and fix performance problems, and I've been working on many of them for the last 10 years. But at the end of the day, the whole subject of performance, to me anyway, is a sort of a black art. I call it almost a science. An awful lot of it is still dependent on rules of thumb and best guesses, but it doesn't have to be, and that's what we're going to talk about. There are a new class of tools out there designed to work with and optimize what we call the virtual infrastructure, which is the building block of cloud computing. And with those tools come some best practices. Of course, it'll all just be theory until someone actually takes these tools, applies the best practices, and actually sees results. But at the very end, I'll talk about 3 large enterprise accounts we've got who are believers because they're using this stuff. And finally, I'll suggest a few questions that you may want to ask yourselves. So what is our challenge? Looking around us, we've seen a change happen in the enterprise that has crept up on an awful lot of IT administrators. For a long time, there's been some comfort in the physicality of infrastructure components. When problems come up, we've always been able to identify a switch port for examination, for instance, or a server at the end of a wire that might be causing problems, an HVA, or any number of other physical things we can turn to for examination. But in the cloud, that comfort has mostly disappeared, in part, and this is due to the virtualization technologies that we'll talk about. And while this trend is spearheaded by server virtualization, the variations of virtualization are almost uncommon. You've got application virtualization, network device virtualization, I/O virtualization, file virtualization, storage virtualization. What am I leaving out? I don't know. I'm sure I'm not mentioning a couple, but it's this virtualization which enables cloud computing to deliver on the promises of enhanced flexibility for the business manager and cost containment for the IT folks. At the same time, the actual infrastructure is scaled almost out of control. You've got more interdependencies between systems, greater complexity, and usually more heterogeneity. For a given application, dependencies may cross multiple applications, servers, SAN fabrics, I/O adapters, network hops, even data centers. So when the performance limit of a single component is exceeded, experience tells me that these I/O slam systems just won't see performance gradually degrade, but instead you see application latency and performance literally rocket out of control under a bombardment of delayed, dropped, and repeated I/O attempts. Very often attempts that can no longer be queued, cached, or backed off by congestion controls or otherwise gracefully handled. In addition, traditional management tools, frankly, have become overwhelmed. Today's systems operating at immense scale have outpaced their capabilities, often leading to what we call application I/O blindness, and that's a term I'll use again. And faced with this complexity and potentially catastrophic impacts from any change, you're literally facing the unknown. Regardless of whether systems are in the cloud, and we will talk about that, it's been hard to find any way to evaluate the big picture and then drill down to perform detailed inspection of the infrastructure. For the most part, we just don't have instrumentation to give us the data we need for troubleshooting and optimizing performance. So, how are admins dealing with this today? Well, from our conversations with end users, I think the majority of businesses today rely on their initial testing of known good configurations